So the leftists think allowing murderers and rapists to invade and then remain in our country is what Jesus would do. Senator Van Hollen didn't get around to asking Abrego Garcia if he is an MS-13 member, and Jasmine Crockett wants us to try her and find out. Well, I can't wait. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the Tomi Lahren is Fearless YouTube page at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. The show starts now. Yesterday was Easter, so you know what that means. It was one of those sacred holidays wherein leftist deranged liberals who hate God, hate Jesus, and hate America felt they had the moral authority to lecture Christians on our faith. The old tired argument that Christians should allow and invite an invasion at our southern border and then allow all those who invaded to stay and have a margarita because that is to them what Jesus would do. And of course, according to the leftists who worship climate change and bow at the altar of the LGBTQ rainbow mafia, we should even let in the ones who are suspected with solid evidence to be gang member wife beaters. We are a compassionate nation, but even so, we are, or at least we're trying to be, a sovereign nation with rules, standards, and obligations to our people over the rest of the world. President Trump put it best, although not delicately, on Easter Sunday. This nation was indeed founded on Christian values, but those values don't include playing Russian roulette with the lives of women and children. Also, Democrats can import voters, so there's that. Here to help me break it down is Republican strategist Erin Maguire. All right, Erin, we have a lot to get to here. I don't even really know where to start, but maybe we'll start with the Abrego Garcia stuff. That really is top of mind for me right now. It's just so outrageous. We've got more Democrats journeying to El Salvador because I think, A, they really like the limelight and the attention that they get by doing it, but they're going down, I guess, to demand a foreign nation release a foreign national and bring him back to the United States so he can get yet another court hearing, I suppose. Are you surprised at all that more decided to go down?
Oh, no, absolutely not, because the left-wing legacy media has been more than glad to prop up this quote-unquote Maryland man who in fact is an El Salvadorian man who illegally entered the United States, was twice adjudicated through the legal process, found to be a gang member, given a deportation order, and the only issue was that he was sent to El Salvador instead of a different nation right now. But the United States government cannot go into a foreign nation, go into their jails, take out their citizen, and bring it to the United States. They do not have the legal authority to be able to do that. But Democrats love that the media is fawning over this man who his wife applied for a restraining order against him. This is their martyr. But the families who live at the southern border of the United States, they didn't matter. Rachel Morin didn't matter to Chris Van Hollen at all when she was brutally murdered and is an actual constituent of his. Democrats see this as a lifeline, but they are making a man a martyr that they should not. And instead of doing what they should do, which is protect the citizens of the United States, they want to use your taxpayer money, go on your taxpayer-funded planes, take your taxpayer-funded time to go and try and help a man who is not a citizen of the United States. That tells you absolutely everything you need to know about where the Democratic Party is today.
Yeah, and this Van Hollen, well, I never heard of him really before this whole debacle. So I think Democrats, they all just want to be famous. So they're like, what can we do to get in the spotlight? We can talk for 25 hours like Cory Booker. We can be ratchet like Jasmine Crockett. We can go to El Salvador and have margaritas, allegedly, with, an illegal alien, alleged gang member. We have to keep saying alleged. There's documentation that would suggest he is a gang member. We have to say the alleged gang member. So I think they're all just vying for attention, and that's what a lot of this is about. But, also they've kind of shifted a little bit from like, this guy is just a great guy to, but even he gets due process and the courts. And that's the repeated line now, is this due process, due process, due process, due process. And for me, it's like, listen, the man had a deportation order and he's got protective orders and he's an illegal alien. So I'm not really sure here what they mean by due process, unless they mean that this individual should be allowed to stay in our country, get a taxpayer funded lawyer until he appeals this thing, umpteen times and draws out the process. Because that to me is the due process that they seem to be begging for. And maybe that's the strategy.
I think it is the strategy. And for Democrats, what they are saying is it's a smoke and mirror show for them. They know that this man should not be in the United States. They know he entered illegally. They know he has a deportation order, which was adjudicated through the court system with due process rights intact, lest we all forget how it actually played out. But Democrats have the left-leaning legacy media to prop up their arguments time and again. They have no leader. They have no strategy. So instead, it is the thirst trap of the Democrat Party between Jasmine Crockett or Chris Van Hollen trying to see who can get the most camera time without actually solving anything for the American people.
I think that's pretty obvious. And I think part of this, too, is that this is getting attention. But I think that Democrats, they've learned nothing from 2024, immigration being number one or number two issue that voters went and voted them out over. So I think they've learned nothing about that. But I think that they are so short-sighted that they live in such an echo chamber and they pay so much attention to just social media. Because, listen, if you go on X, and because of the way the algorithm works, even though I'm a conservative that wants all illegal aliens deported, I see a lot of posts of people, both with blue check marks and just general people who are like, no, bring the man back and due process. And I see a lot of those posts. And so one, if they weren't aware of how the algorithm worked, they might think that the general public really wants this guy back. But I think that they're living on social media. And they're seeing, these populated comments and posts, and they're not actually seeing the American people who have given them low ratings, low marks, and also have poll after poll said that they want illegal aliens just in general deported. Do you think that that's part of it? Like, are they just existing in such a narrow chamber right now that they're not getting it?
Yeah, and they don't want to get it. Let's not forget that right now, Democratic leadership has its lowest approval ever because Democrats don't have anything to stand for. And because for so long, their message has just been continuously brought back to them in the echo chamber of DC time and again. I remember working on Capitol Hill, watching a Nancy Pelosi press conference, and then hearing her exact words parroted by hosts on different networks and different outlets and quote unquote reporters and journalists carrying their water time and again. It's classic. It happens all the time. That's why right now they don't really have a message and they're just thinking, oh, well, I continue to see people who say that this man needs this. Chris Van Hollen returned to the Dulles airport to a bunch of people with really cute printed out signs thanking him for his trip and a bunch of cameras. But this is the thing about Democrats, and it's something I really enjoy as a Republican strategist. The fact that they don't get it makes it easier for us to win in the long run. These are the same Democrats who told you inflation under Joe Biden was transitory, that the southern border was closed, that we didn't have an immigration crisis, that your civil liberties and freedoms were not being taken away by Joe Biden. No, we were led to believe all of that was true, and the media carried the water. So now that Democrats and the American people have, one, rejected the mainstream media, and two, rejected Democrats, they're flailing to try and find any way to feel that they are reassured in their very comfortable high ivory towers of Washington, D.C., that really what they're doing is what the American people want. I don't know how many more times the American people can be like an ex-girlfriend who's screaming, this relationship didn't work because you didn't listen to me. It's the economy. It's safety and security. And you guys are more worried about that El Salvadorian man than you are about the fact that here in the United States, we want a better tomorrow for our own country. And so it's just going to make it easier for me in November. So I don't want to flag it too much for them, but it's always fun to point out.
Yeah, they're not getting it. And I really do think they just want attention more than anything else. I think that they've found the things that get them attention. It was Elon. Well, now it's Abrego Garcia. It's just every couple of weeks they have a new thing. It was like the Signal group chat. Oh my God, national security. And then of course, Elon and Doge are taking away your social security, all this. And now it's the Abrego Garcia thing. But I'm actually pretty shocked at that Supreme Court ruling or opinion or, emergency order that came down in the wee hours of the morning about the Venezuelan deportations. And apparently these buses that were going to take these Venezuelans that were in Texas to be deported, they had to turn around. And I think that there was a great post about this from Bill Ackman, who said, and Elon Musk has been saying this, and Stephen Miller and many others, but saying, like, listen, their strategy is, if they can say that each illegal alien on, the millions that were let in, that they all get this extra special due process, as we were alluding to earlier, this is never going to end. Like, the time it would take to give all these people the special due process that Democrats are demanding, we're never going to be able to deport anyone. And I'm wondering if you were shocked by that emergency order about, halting the Alien Enemies Act for these Venezuelans. Did that surprise you at all, that decision?
It did surprise me, but it also seemed to surprise the Supreme Court as well, which is why Justice Alito put out a statement refuting what had been the majority opinion. Justice Alito does not generally weigh in such a manner, but he did very quickly, because this was a very quick decision rendered by the Supreme Court. And he said that he was uncomfortable with the way that they were handling this. It's clear that there's even divides within the Supreme Court when it comes to how they're treating these matters. But Democrats have been litigators for decades. It is well known that their ability to not only try to funnel and find courts to be able to litigate to the outcome that they want, but they will litigate all the way until the end, until they can get a Supreme Court ruling. This is just a stay, and it's just going to be temporary. But Democrats are known for decades and have a very big legacy of incredible amounts of litigation to try and change not only election outcomes, but the outcomes for the priorities that they have. And right now, that includes illegal immigrants in the United States.
Yeah, and I really do think that this is their strategy. I think that all of this for them has gone to plan. They got millions in, which apparently there was no problem with that, by the way. I cannot get over how you can allow your country to be overrun with millions of illegal aliens, that they admitted they weren't able to keep track of hundreds of thousands of kids. You're letting people in that you're not able to properly vet. You're flying people in using an app, allowing them to really bypass the process altogether. And there was no issue with that. But now Trump's trying to take those people out, and all of a sudden now this is the legal crisis. It boggles the mind of, I believe, the everyday American who understands the jurisdiction of the court, but quite frankly doesn't understand how you can allow your country to be overrun, but you can't put it back in order. I want to move on now, though. We mentioned getting attention, and there's no one right now who's getting more attention in the Democrat Party than Jasmine Crockett. And here she is again doing another speech, which the Real Housewives of Atlanta was also on last night, so I was having trouble figuring out if this was Bravo or if this was a congresswoman, but take a listen to, I think, her threat.
But I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. Because I am truly a black woman at the same time.
She wants everyone to know she's a black woman, and try me and find out type of thing. She keeps doing this. And it's working for her because, once again, she's getting attention. But I'm not so sure that the Democrat Party should be celebrating someone like Jasmine Crockett, who repeatedly says stupid things like that.
I think they should celebrate her, because right now she's one of the few leaders and voices they have in that party. When you have no direction in a leadership vacuum, this is what Democrats decide should be their leading voice. A woman who was elected to Congress and says she is a serious lawmaker, but at the same point, if you push her, if you have a differing view than her, well, then she will explode on you, and she will yell at you, and she will belittle and demean you, as we have seen her do to her colleagues in the chamber, on the dais, in committee hearings. This is not appropriate, and so we should call it for what it is. If she wants to behave like that, then how does she expect to ever help Democrats have a salient message or be able to move the country forward? But again, Tomi, to your point, you're 100% right. This isn't about actually legislating, actually getting things done for the American people, or having policy positions that could bring bipartisanship together with Democrats and Republicans. Instead, it's about Democrats wanting to see who can get the most clicks. You get the most clicks, you get the most eyes, you get the most donors, you're going to have the most power. I mean, look at David Hogg. He is the Democrat committee vice chairman of the National Party, and he is now saying he's going to raise $20 million to primary sitting Democrats. The arsonists are in the House for the Democrat Party right now. And if it's Jasmine Crockett trying to take money for herself and make sure that she can run whatever campaigns she wants, or David Hogg trying to burn the DNC down from the inside, again, no policy, no position, no forward looking. It's about money for them. It's about power. And it's about making sure that everybody can see them on TV and nothing else.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if David Hogg, I don't know if he can make a change. It's really, I don't think either option is good. I do think that the DNC desperately needs, a face, and they need energy, and they need younger blood, because I don't think that the folks of Nancy and Chuck, I think that they're certainly Joe Biden, they're relics of the past. But the ones coming up, it's not like the Republican side, and the Republican Party is not perfect, but the young voices you have coming up in the Republican side, they're not extreme radical conservatives either. I mean, you've got the young people as, J.D. Vance, and you've got comparatively Marco Rubio being, a younger face. You've got Byron Donalds. I mean, you've got Elise Stefanik. You've got younger people that are rising through the ranks and getting notoriety. But I would argue for better reasons that they have shown to be rising stars. And the Democrat side, it's like, let's just pick the cuckoo bird, and they're younger. Let's talk about people who I don't think are Republicans. I don't understand why Alaska keeps electing this woman. Trump won Alaska, but this woman, Murkowski might as well say she's a Democrat at this point. And you want to talk about an arsonist, I think this woman fits the bill. Let's take a listen to her sob story.
I have to say to people who are afraid, or who represent people who are afraid, we are all afraid. Okay. It's quite a statement. But we are, we're in a time and a place where I don't know. I certainly have not. I have not been here before. And I'll tell you, I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice, because retaliation is real, and that's not right. But that's what you've asked me to do, and so I'm going to use my voice to the best of my ability, and sometimes it will be viewed in a way that, well, that's pretty confrontational.
What's your take on her? She's one of those people that just sticks around like a Christmas fruitcake. They don't go away. It's like Liz Cheney, but Liz Cheney was forced out. Now I guess she's a Democrat hero. But what do you make of this? And I guess I don't understand her constituency, but do you think that they're happy with what she's doing?
One, I think that Lisa Murkowski represents a part of the Republican Party that isn't there anymore, that evolved, and the party became more blue collar, more working class, and left behind the lineage that got our party decimated for decades before. She's representative of a time that does not exist in the Republican Party anymore. But to Murkowski's credit, and I will say this to her, she one time lost her primary and did win a general election on a write-in with the last name Murkowski in Alaska. It's a well-known name there. That's why she can continue to win, even in a state that is so deeply and heavily supportive of President Trump. The thing is, Lisa Murkowski, even herself, says she's not a Republican anymore. This isn't a party that represents where she is any longer. And so people do get left behind. But I find it difficult, even for a senator, whether or not you agree with her, to say that you're scared to use your voice. You're elected. This is your job. You asked to do it and they said yes, and now you're telling them you're scared to do it. That's not leadership. I understand that it can be difficult to have a big voice. Tomi, you get it too. You're in the public spotlight, having opinions, being strong, being unapologetic, and to the title of this show, fearless in what you do is what makes you a good leader. And she's afraid to do that. If you have positions that are differing or others or not that of your constituents, you better be willing to stand up and defend it to them and not say you're scared to do so. It's hard to be a leader in this country. country. And it's okay sometimes to express that that can be tough, but you can't be afraid to do your job, because at the end of the day, that's what the people elected her to do. And so she's just got to buck up right now, because this is a country that's going to go through a radical change no matter what right now.
What's weird about that to me, though, is it's like saying, oh, I have something really bad to say, but I'm not going to say it. So by her saying, like, I'm afraid to speak out because of the retaliation, what you're doing, you're already stabbing, the president in the back just by saying that. And you're stabbing your fellow Republicans in the back just by saying that. But then you don't go all the way. You don't go the distance on it. You don't say it, as the young folks would say, with your whole chest. She's like, I'm fearing retaliation, but I have no problem making a shady comment that shows that I'm a traitor. I'm just going to say that I'm scared. It's like, it's not adding up to me. It's like, listen, you're either going to be a villain or you're going to be a loyalist. But I don't think you get to sit in this middle ground and pretend that you're neither. So it's weird for me. She's weird for me. I don't get it. I understand that name ID is important, especially in places like Alaska, but it's not translating for me. So I quite frankly don't understand those dynamics there. I do want to talk to you, though, about the economy, because if there's one thing that I'm a little concerned about when it comes to midterms, is the state of the economy right now and the way that the markets are reacting. I believe in overreaction, but I'm not an economist, so I couldn't tell you. Do you, as a Republican strategist, do you see this as the weak spot of the MAGA movement and President Trump right now, that things are, in a sticky period?
Yeah, transition is tough, and the economy is always one that is top of mind for voters and the American people, because it's the reality you live. You drive past the gas station every day. You go to the grocery store. You know what it's like to have to balance a checkbook. And so the economy is always going to be number one top of mind. Yes, immigration was huge going into the general election, and it's because it was so obvious at the southern border how bad Joe Biden and Democrats were. The economy will need to steady. And the moment that you start to see independents start to soften on the economy toward Republicans is going to start to send red flags going into the midterms. We have to be able to say that the hard work is showing the results, and that this is what will lead to huge, great outcomes for the American people. But right now, we're in that sticky middle. So Republicans need to stay focused on their message about the long-term gains here. This is not an easy process, but if we aren't talking to the American people about it and defining the issue now, you will lose independence come the midterms if the economy is not heading in a direction where they feel right track, wrong track for the country is where they want to go.
Do you think that the whole tariff thing was a mistake? Do you think that maybe he jumped the shark a little bit with the tariffs? I mean, from a strategy perspective, and I really want to know, like, just your honest opinion as a strategist here, because I'll tell you mine. I think that this needed to be done, but I worry that people don't understand. When we're just coming out of Bidenomics and a Biden economy, I worry that just hitting them like boom with the tariffs that caused the markets to freak out, and the uncertainty that it's causing, in your first 100 days, I'm a little concerned that maybe it wasn't the right time to do it, if there ever is a right time, because I don't think that there is. But do you think that maybe the president should have waited until we got, the tax cuts and until we got some deregulation to make this move? Would you have preferred that track, or do you think that it just had to be done?
I think if you're Donald Trump, you believe it had to be done. But I believe from my perspective, they could have done a larger rollout and brought something more complete to the American people that included the strategy, the rationale, the reasoning, and done it on this timeline. You can be able to talk to the American people. Now, I'm an old school political person. Normally, the adage is if you're explaining, you're losing. But in this instance, having a fuller rollout and what doesn't feel to be knee-jerk reactions either to the market or to other countries, that we are saying, here are the rules of the road right now in the United States, explaining it to the American people and the world, and then sticking to it. Clarity prevents chaos. I think being clearer on the front end, even if they did it immediately, would have helped the American people and could have helped stabilize the markets. This is something that's going to be tougher for Donald Trump down the road. It's not to say it shouldn't have been done, because to be able to balance inequities on a global economic scale will be disruptive. But explanation and clarity will help the American people feel more confident that while we're all in this bunker together right now going through this, the other side will be more prosperous, a better tomorrow, a stronger sovereign nation. And that clarity of message, Caroline Leavitt does a great job of it at the podium. It needs to be more echoed more broadly by the administration to really quell some of those fears.
Yeah, here's what I worry about because I always gotta just be honest of the things that keep me awake at night. I remember obviously this wasn't long ago, during the Biden administration when inflation and the prices were going up and there was a lot of pain for people. And I remember Biden surrogates coming on national TV, as you mentioned, inflation is transitory. It's really not that bad. You just don't understand that actually the economy is great. And I remember them trying to sell that narrative that actually it's not as bad as you think it is. And I remember saying, like, you can't tell people that things that they're experiencing every day are not as bad as they think it is. I worry that we're running into that same territory. And I'm wondering from your perspective, how does the Trump administration and how do Republicans get out of that spot where they're just telling people, hey, don't believe it, you're actually fine? I'm a little worried about that messaging.
No, I think you're totally right. And it's a completely fair point to make. And that's why hindsight's 2020 about needing the clarity to prevent the chaos on the front end. If they had put this package more fully together in a rollout for the American people, they wouldn't have to get on camera or send anybody out to say and try to explain down the road. Again, the adage, if you're explaining, you're losing. But at this point, to be able to settle the markets and provide clarity of a path forward, that's not telling the American people, that's not lying to them the way the Biden administration did and the media did. That's not trying to spin them that what they're going through right now. That's one thing that Democrats really always fail to do is acknowledge the moment in the present. Yeah, right now it's going to be bumpy and it's going to be hard. Honesty pays dividends in politics. It's going to be hard. But right now, we're looking at the next 6 months, looking at boom, 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 boom. Lay it out for the American people. Clarity, not lying, but clarity in mission and what will happen next will be important. That's the difference. We're not trying to spin the American people to say that what would be happening right now isn't happening. What the Trump administration needs to be doing isn't lying to them, but giving them clarity. And that's the difference. Democrats are happy to lie to the American people, and they're happy to have the media carry that lie message for them for decades. That's the difference. Clarity versus complete misdirection.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. And President Trump has said, like, there's going to be some initial growing pains. I think it's just hard for people to hear that because they expected President Trump to come in and the prices to go down, maybe an unrealistic expectation, but they expected those things, so we're not seeing it. I got to be real honest, though, and I'm sure you well know this better than me. If the Democrats weren't so distracted right now with being on TV, with advocating for alleged criminal alien wife-beating gang members that are in El Salvador, men and women's sports, LGBTQ, pro-Hamas, anti-Jewish, sentiment on college campuses, if they weren't so completely encapsulated by all that stuff and they just hammered this economy every single day and that was their main message, I think Republicans would be in trouble come midterms.
I do think that the more that Democrats, if they did talk about the economy and what was going on relative to prices or to the stock market or the uncertainty that we're seeing, yes, that would be a message that resonates. But Democrats cannot help themselves. One, Donald Trump is president, and for them, they lost the touch with reality the moment that man was elected. The first time, and let again, that it happened again to them. They cannot fathom that Donald Trump is president, and so they cannot get past that filter. So ultimately here, this is what the American people elected was for lower prices. They want a stronger economy. And Donald Trump does need to get out there and be able to start showing that prices are going down, right? They always try to do this around the holidays and messaging. Democrats are really bad at it, though. You remember the Biden signs around 4th of July, oh, hot dogs are 2 cents less, or, the hot dog bun cost you half a nickel less. They never had a real good message because they weren't driving it. Donald Trump has shown that he can grow an economy and move it forward. If Democrats hit him on that failure, a man who has grown business, or what they perceive to be that failure right now, what they could have done was drive a message that would help them. But Democrats cannot do that. So instead, they're chasing Donald Trump because they lost their vision. And two, Elon Musk only made it worse for them. So when you add the two people that they can't get past blind hatred for, they can't drive a message. So they chase Elon Musk around DC, trying to save bureaucrats' jobs, getting all spun up by Doge. And for Donald Trump, they're more worried about that El Salvadorian man than they are about the American people. Because Democrats anytime they think they can get in front of a camera and whatever the media wants to talk about, they're happy to do that. They don't want to have to push a message because they haven't had to. The media has carried their water. And now that they're realizing, oh, I actually have to do a little bit of work here and figure out how to message. They chase anything they can. So for Republicans and for the Trump administration, this will give them the runway to be able to lay out their message and show the path forward and start to bring costs down for the American people. We've got time because Democrats are so bad.
We've got time, but we're on borrowed time, I believe.
I think that's fair.
I worry that there are too many Republicans and too many Trump supporters who are taking victory laps. And I get it, because it's like, look at the Democrats, they're crazy. But the Democrats, as much as they're getting spun up in this, there will be more cooler heads, I believe, at some point within the Democrat Party will prevail. And I'm worried that they're going to, right now they're in chaos. It's a circus. And they're like, Abrego Garcia is the new what? They're dumb right now. But I fear that as somebody is going to emerge that is more of a moderate, and they're going to come in and say, hey, listen, all this craziness, I don't care about the illegal aliens. I don't want men and women's sports. I want to talk about the economy. And even though they might be full of crap, I'm worried that that messenger will surface. And I'm concerned that right now that's our soft spot, our underbelly, if you will. But I think Republicans and Trump supporters are too busy making fun of Democrats because it's easy, and not preparing for what I think is going to come in the next 6 months to a year. Is they're going to get wise to this?
I don't know that Democrats can get wise to it. And I completely take your point. I get it. They could have a moderate voice who could come down the middle and call out the nonsense. Gavin Newsom is trying to do that with the podcast.
But he can't do that with California. Like,
I totally get it. But they're trying.
Yeah.
Chris Van Hollen is attempting. Cory Booker is attempting. They're trying to show.
I don't think any of them are. I think that the person that's going to do it hasn't surfaced yet. I think maybe Pete Buttigieg thinks he's going to be the one. But my thought here is it's going to be much more of a Bashir from Kentucky, a Westmore, a Shapiro. It's going to be those folks that are right now standing back. To me, it's like you gotta watch. Like the ones right now, the young kids, they call them the pick-me's. The pick-me's are all out there. The Crockett's, the AOC's, the Booker, the Van Hollen. They're all like, pick me, pick me. And of course, Gavin Newsom, the original, pick me, pick me, pick me. And it's like, no, none of you, it's not landing. But I do believe that the person that's going to come from the back and surprise us hasn't surfaced yet. So
yeah, but I don't think the Democrat Party would allow that to happen when it comes to winning a primary, right? There is still a hardcore left base that believes men should be in women's sports, that believes Israel should be blown off the map, and that believes in extreme ideology, and they will not put up a national figure that cannot be the one that represents that. Let's not forget that during the 2020 presidential primary, every Democrat except Joe Biden, I believe, raised their hand, or they all did on stage, to want to allow illegal immigrants to come into the United States unfettered and offer them health care. This is what the Democrat Party demands. They all stood there and raised their hand on that stage. So someone might try to be the moderate, but the party won't allow that to happen. It is too controlled by the radical left. So it's easy to make fun of them, and it's completely fair to say Republicans need to wake up now, because midterm elections, while right now we can be footloose and fancy free and hitting the chaos of Democrats, midterm elections historically go against the party in power. And that means that while Donald Trump will still be president, he could end up with a Democrat Speaker of the House or a Democrat Senate. The Senate's much harder given the map and given how everything works kind of in that cycle right now. But it's not impossible in the House with those smaller margins. Yeah. So Republicans need to start waking up now to make sure that we are on the right message and on the right footing, because these midterms will historically likely not go in our favor. Now, one time they were beat back a little bit. Remember when Kevin McCarthy was there and it was the midterms for Biden, Republicans were winning more seats than for Trump, Republicans won more seats than we expected to be able to. And that helped bring in the majority in the next cycle. It's not to say it's impossible, but to win and hold and to pick up a majority and hold that in the Republicans will be very difficult come midterms.
It's going to be. And if Democrats take over, they're going to impeach him again. Yeah. And not only that, but his agenda is going to be stalled. So I've always tried to just be like, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, because, there's a lot to celebrate. But I have some concerns, and I just don't want us to be caught off guard if the Democrats do get their act together. And not because I believe that they're sane and because I do believe that they're moderate, but because they're like, okay, if we want to win, we're going to moderate ourselves to win, and then we're going to go full blown nutty. That's what
So
they did
I
with Joe
actually
Biden. I mean, to be honest, Joe Biden was the moderate, right? And then he went in and he was the most progressive president, certainly in my lifetime. So that is my concern that I don't think that a lot of Republicans are acknowledging right now.
And to be fair, I think what you will see is it's not going to be a matter of the Democrats getting it together and being less chaotic. It will be a national media legacy narrative shift heavy into the economy. You will see that. I can almost guarantee it. The closer we get to midterms, the more the talk about costs, about goods, about what's going on with jobs in the economy. You will hear, I bet, almost nonstop about it, because right now, that's kind of a soft spot for the Republican Party. We haven't made it through the tariff fight yet. We haven't been able to completely deliver all of the things that the Trump team wanted, including the Trump tax cuts. But you will see a market shift, I can guarantee. So Democrats won't have to do it. They'll just be able to talk about what the media is already covering. And the media will kind of just shift them back to where they need to be. Democrats won't do it on their own.
Yeah. Well, that's just all the more reason for us to figure out this tariff stuff sooner rather than later. Bring a little bit of relief, bring a big win in terms of the economy. I think that they need a big win. I think they need to say, hey, we've got deals with the EU. We've got these big deals with Japan, with South Korea. Look at these deals. They're great. Canada and Mexico, we're not fighting with them anymore. Yes, the Chinese stuff is still going on. People can stomach the China stuff if it's just China, but I don't think that there's a stomach for fighting everybody. Even though I would love to see us do it, I'm concerned. But I always appreciate you giving the strategy and giving your take. Obviously, a ton of experience in this and in the messaging. So I lean to your expertise. Thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Tomi.
Folks, we just talked about it, but the Democrats are in so deep with their new George Floyd, Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia. They don't even seem to care if he is an illegal alien, gang member, wife beater. It's time for final thoughts. I'm actually dumbfounded at how far Democrats are willing to dig themselves into the ground with the whole Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia charade. You know, I thought maybe, just maybe, after AG Pam Bondi released the documents detailing Abrego Garcia's MS-13 designation, they'd try really hard to find an out. And if that wasn't enough for him, I thought maybe the party of women would at least flinch a little after reports on protective orders against Abrego Garcia filed by his wife were made public. But no, they've dug in so deep on this cat, they do not even seem to care if he is a gang member, wife beater. In fact, I guess over their cutesy margaritas, Senator Van Hollen didn't even bother to ask about it.
They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts. Let me tell you, and I decided to write this down so I could be absolutely accurate as to what Federal District Court Judge Zinnes said about these allegations by the Trump administration. Quote, no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any terrorist activity has been presented to the court. That's where to litigate this. It's been litigated in many other places. So I'm not going to get into the details because the whole purpose of our court system is for them to adjudicate these things, not for Donald Trump to go off on social media.
The courts, due process. Dude, for real? Democrats, for real? This is where you are now? This is the guy you're putting all your chips on? Van Hollen won't and can't answer the question straight up, so this might be rhetorical, but what more evidence do they all really need here about the MS-13 ties? Furthermore, what American accused of being a gang member is afforded this much benefit of the frickin' doubt? Never forget the party that forced you to shut down your businesses, let your elderly relatives die alone, forced your kids into remote learning and masks, and pushed you into a vaccine to be able to eat indoors or go to work, now demands extra special due process for an alleged gangbanger, wife beater, illegal alien. Your rights didn't matter, but his do? Oh, and not only did Democrats open our borders and welcome millions to invade this country to suck your tax dollars, murder, and rape you, now you're paying for your senators to fly to foreign countries to bring the deported ones back.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Like every other trip. What a clown. Democrats have shown you their hand. While some lament Biden's open border and claim to understand that's why they lost in 2024, it's all bull. It's performance art. They wanted this. They wanted millions in, and now they're fighting tooth and nail to keep them here. They worked hard on the invasion of their future voters, and they'll do whatever to keep them in your country. For Trump, winning the election was the easy part of this. He's trying to get your country back, so pay attention. Who is trying to stop him? And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes of the show on outkick.com and Fox Nation. Please do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.